So welcome deep into the recesses of my man cave / studio, and here I'm showing you my small collection of Hobbit action figures that came out around, I guess, the first movie around that time, and I have the feeling that they had something ambitious in mind, kind of like the Lord of the Rings collection that you see behind them, that just became incredibly expansive and made an impressive line of figures that, sadly enough, no one really got interested in. I thought they were great, but we have, nonetheless, they did make a few, and the benefits were the Hobbit figures were the 3 3/4 scale, so so now you have a Legolas that you can interact with your Star Wars or G.I. Joe figures at a little bit of a better scale. And these figures had some pluses. I thought the face sculpts were decent, not nearly as good as the Lord of the Rings line, but and the accessories were pretty good. You got Legolas. He's got his bow, his quiver, his 2 daggers. He's wearing an outfit that is kind of restrictive, but he has articulation, and he can move his head down, so there's a ball in there. So, but his hair sort of restricts the movement. So that's your ball joint. So he can look down. He can look a little bit to the side and down. He's got wrist articulation, and they had the hinge in the shoulder, which is good. But as far as his legs, although he can bend his knees, he's restricted by the rather hard plastic tunic he's wearing. So, Bilbo is just loaded down with accessories. He's got his pack here, and whatever this is, and he's got his sting that he finds in a cave in the movie, where you see the origin of it. The best things, like I said, the best thing about these figures were the sculpts look pretty good. Like, you can see Martin Freeman there, and the articulation was pretty good, and the fact that they were 3 3/4 scale, so you can have Martin Freeman with Sting. He can hold it, so it looks pretty good. The detail on the Sting is pretty good. His legs are, it's very, very difficult to bend them forward. I know there's got to be a joint there, but I don't want to force it. It's such a small figure. But he can bend his knees pretty well. I'm not exactly sure how that's supposed to work. And he's got a torso that moves. So it's a pretty good figure. This one, what was his name? It was like the old wise dwarf, and I can't remember his name. Once again, he's got articulation in the head, but that beard is really getting in the way. He comes with 2 weapons. This funny looking sword and this dagger. And he's got, I guess, a scabbard. I'm not sure what that's supposed to fit. He's got a big belt, little pointy shoes. His leg has articulation, but it's constrained by the tunic. So, but he's a cool looking figure, and they got the face pretty good for the character. This is the Evangeline Lilly character. Gosh, I can't remember her name in the movie. Let me take the quiver and the bow off. She's got very long hair. and but she still has a lot of articulation in her neck and head. She comes with these two sort of knives, elven knives. Once again, I think the sculpt is pretty good. You can see Evangeline Lilly there. The hard plastic that was used for her tunic is constraining any articulation in the legs. So even though she's got articulation in the knees, you can't really bend it. So, but this is her true dwarf love here. What's his name? Killy or Philly or something like that. Now this is when the figures start to get a little bit better. He actually has a bow and arrow with a sword scabbard. He's got a place where he can actually slide the bow into, so you can stow all of his stuff, and then you can have him hold his warhammer with both hands. The warhammer is a nice little piece. It looks good. He's got slightly better articulation because of his tunic is not quite as, no, it still blocks most of whatever he can do. But he does have a lot of cool stuff going on this belt. He's got a little dagger there. He's got a sword here. He's got his bow. He's got his arrows. It looks good. It fits good. This is the other. This is. I can't remember the dwarves' names. They didn't make all the dwarves. They just made this little group, and I think that the figures didn't sell very well. You still see them on the shows occasionally. I thought they were pretty cool. This guy's got all kinds of knives and little throwing things. He's got two swords that go in this funny sheath here. Most of his knives don't come out of the scabbards, but he just looks kind of cool anyway. He actually doesn't have anything to hold if you stow his knives, so he really should hold his knives. He's got that ball joint head. He's got, you know, the legs that don't really move because of the tunic. Next is this guy. What's cool about him, he has a really much nicer warhammer. And he's got two axes. I think they're supposed to go through this hole, but I haven't been able to push it through that hole yet. I need to work on that. But the axes look nice in his little get up here. He's got a dagger that comes out of a scabbard here. He's got a cool tattoo on his head. Very detailed. The costume, the details on these figures are just really good. I mean, it really looks like the guys from The Hobbit. I'm not exactly sure why these figures didn't do so well, but maybe because the movie didn't do as well as Lord of the Rings. Next is the guy who starts all the madness, the leader of the dwarves. Was it Thorin, I think? Thorin Oakenshield. He comes with his little Oakenshield on his arm. You can take it off. He has his sword, and he has this lovely elven sword that he finds in the movie on a back scabbard. He's like the handsome Aragorn dwarf guy. I believe this was the hardest one to find. And he also has a tunic that restricts his articulation. But he's not a bad little figure. Next is Gollum. Gollum's just nothing but articulation, and it's good. And he looks great. They got Gollum. They nailed Gollum. I will say that. He can articulate all over the place. He can bend. He can look creepy. The paint's good. His little fingers, his hands, I mean, his little face. They got Gollum really good. And finally, you shall not pass, Gandalf. This is the figure that made me want to actually collect these anyway, and I waited till they went on clearance, which was inevitable, because I just kind of wanted this Gandalf, and I figured might as well get the whole little set, because they only made a handful of these in the 3 3/4 scale at least. They made some in a bigger scale, like Radagast and so forth, but I wasn't going to do that. I just wanted this little handful of figures. So Gandalf looks pretty good. You can take off his hat. You can take out his sword. The sword looks good. It fits really nicely in the scabbard. The scabbard also comes off if you want to take it off. His staff looks great. He's got like good articulation. Turn his head. Whoop. Pop his head right off. He's wearing robes, so you can't really move his legs, even though there's articulation down there. So there we have it. Now I'm gonna put all these figures back where they belong, and so put his sword back. Okay. Back Gandalf back. This little oaken shield does not want to stay on, by the way. Okay. So that's my little Hobbit collection. And I hope you enjoyed it. Next time, I can show you my Guardians of the Galaxy collection. So, I hope you like this. And I'll see you next time. Bye.